Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. When the Washington Commanders hired Adam Peters to take over football operations, there was a sense that something truly transformative was coming to DC. The fan base, long starved for consistency and credibility, saw Peters as the architect who could finally stabilize a franchise that had spent far too many years wandering in mediocrity. And in his first season at the helm, it looked like the hype was justified. The Commanders shocked the league, soaring from irrelevance to contention, playing with a sense of identity, swagger, and cohesion that had been missing for years. But just as quickly as they rose, the fall came, sudden, steep, and brutal. The 2025 campaign has turned into a sobering reminder that building a winner in the NFL is never linear. There are growing pains, missteps, and recalibrations along the way. And for Peters, this upcoming offseason isn't just another checkpoint. It's shaping up to be the defining moment of his tenure. The kind of crossroads that separates the great team builders from those who flash and fade. Right now, the Commanders' situation is as complicated as it is intriguing. On one hand, they've got a ton of cap space, more than most teams heading into 2026. But on the other hand, they've also got a thin roster. Many of their key contributors are either hitting free agency or entering the final years of their deals. And the team holds only 6 draft picks after Peters decided not to make any trades at the 2025 deadline. That means every decision he makes in the coming months has to count. There's no margin for error, no luxury of overpaying veterans who don't move the needle, and no room to play it safe. Peters has to rebuild this roster with purpose, precision, and patience, even if it means making tough calls that could ruffle a few feathers in the locker room. This is where leadership is tested. Not when everything's going right, but when the structure starts to wobble and you've got to reinforce it from the foundation up. One of the biggest questions facing Peters right now is what kind of identity he wants the Commanders to have going forward. Last offseason, he leaned heavily into continuity. He doubled down on the core that had overachieved in 2024. Betting that veteran leadership and familiarity would carry them further. It was a calculated risk. And in hindsight, one that didn't pay off. The team plateaued. Injuries struck key positions. The defensive line didn't live up to expectations, and the big splash signing of Javon Kinlaw, once viewed as a reclamation project with upside, has turned into exactly what many feared, an expensive misfire. Kinlaw's inconsistency and lack of production have only amplified the frustration of a fan base that's seen too many win-now moves backfire over the years. Still, even in a season of disappointment, there's one decision Peters made that stands out as an undeniable success, maybe even a franchise-saving one. That move, of course, was the blockbuster trade for Laramie Tunsil. When Peters pulled the trigger on the deal with the Houston Texans, sending over significant draft capital in exchange for the all-pro left tackle, there were plenty of skeptics. Tunsil was already well paid, already established, and approaching his 30s. Not exactly the profile of a player you'd expect a rebuilding franchise to invest heavily in. But Peters saw something others didn't: a cornerstone, a leader, and a player who could immediately elevate the entire offense, both on and off the field. Fast forward to now, and it's hard to argue against that vision. Tunsil has been nothing short of spectacular. In a season where almost everything else has gone wrong, he's been the rock, the steady, unmovable force protecting the blind side, setting the tone for a young offensive line, and giving the Commanders at least one thing they can rely on every single week, according to Pro Football Focus. Tunsil's pass blocking grade sits at an elite 87.3, ranking him 4th among all qualifying tackles. He's allowed just 1 sack in 564 snaps, committed 7 penalties, and surrendered a mere dozen pressures. That's dominance, plain and simple, and he's done it without the luxury of stability around him. Jaden Daniels has been in and out of the lineup. Terry McLaurin's absence has left a massive void in the passing game. The ground attack has been inconsistent, yet through it all, Tunsil's performance hasn't dipped. If anything, it stood out even more against the chaos surrounding him. That's why it's becoming clearer by the day that the Commanders' first major offseason move should be locking up Laramie Tunsil to an extension. He's got 1 more year left on his deal, carrying a hefty $24.95 million cap hit for 2026. But the numbers tell only part of the story. At 31, Tunsil is far from done. Offensive tackles, Especially the elite ones, often maintain their level of play well into their mid-30s. Trent Williams, Jason Peters, and Drew Whitworth, all examples of players who defied the age curve because of elite technique, preparation, and intelligence. Tunsil fits that mold perfectly, extending him now, before his price tag skyrockets again or before uncertainty creeps in, isn't just smart, it's essential. A 2 or 3 year extension would give Peters flexibility in cap management, open up room to make other key signings, and send a clear message to the locker room that excellence gets rewarded in Washington, and it's not just about the on-field performance. Tunsil's presence has had an immeasurable impact on rookie right tackle Josh Conerly Jr., who has shown flashes of brilliance this season, but also plenty of the growing pains expected. From a first-year lineman, having a mentor like Tunsil, someone who's faced the best edge rushers in the league week after week and still dominates, is invaluable. Offensive line play is as much about chemistry and communication as it is about raw skill. Tunsil's leadership has accelerated Conerly's learning curve and given the Commanders something they haven't had in years, the makings of a bookend tackle duo that can protect their quarterback for the next decade. That's the kind of stability that wins championships. The Commanders have been through so many false starts over the years that fans could be forgiven for being cynical. Every offseason seems to bring a new turning point, a new rebuild, a new era. But what makes this upcoming one different is that there's already a foundation to build on for all the disappointment of 2025. There's no denying that Peters brought a sense of professionalism and accountability to an organization that desperately needed it. He's made mistakes, every general manager does, but he's also shown the ability to identify elite talent and act decisively when the opportunity arises. The Tunsil trade is proof of that. Now, he has to double down on it by ensuring that Washington doesn't lose its best player over something as preventable as contract timing. And make no mistake, the Commanders can't afford distractions. The locker room needs stability. Jaden Daniels, when healthy, has shown glimpses of being the long-term answer at quarterback, but he needs protection, continuity, and leadership. Offensive line turnover can derail even the most talented young passers. We've seen it across the league. Teams that neglect their trenches often pay for it with broken plays, broken confidence, and broken seasons. Locking up Tunsil early would send a powerful signal not just to Daniels, but to the rest of the roster. This team values its protectors. It values consistency. It values players who show up and deliver, no matter the circumstances. Some might argue that with all the cap space the Commanders have, there's no need to rush an extension. That Peters could wait another year, see how Tunsil holds up physically, and then decide. But that's a reactive mindset, not a proactive one. The great front offices, the ones that build dynasties, not just playoff teams, make their moves ahead of the curve. They reward production before it becomes leverage. They create goodwill with their stars by showing faith early, not after they've exhausted every ounce of value. Peters has a chance to make that kind of statement here. Re-signing Tunsil isn't just about securing a player. It's about defining the culture of the Commanders for years to come, of course. Extending Tunsil won't fix everything. Washington still needs to find more depth at wide receiver, add playmakers to the secondary, and finally get a consistent running game going. But if you're building a blueprint for long-term success, it starts in the trenches, always. That's where teams like the Eagles, 49ers, and Chiefs have built their foundations. That's how you weather injuries, inconsistent quarterback play, and the inevitable ebbs and flows of an NFL season. For all the flosh that comes with modern offensive football, it's still a game of leverage, protection, and control. And Laramie Tunsil gives the Commanders exactly that. So as Adam Peters stares down the most important offseason of his career, the first domino is already in plain sight. Before the draft, before free agency, before any headline-grabbing trade speculation begins, the move that will set the tone for everything else is simple. Extend Laramie Tunsil. Do it early. Do it confidently. Do it because he's earned it, because the team needs it, and because it's the clearest, most logical way to start turning this ship back in the right direction. In a league that rewards decisiveness, this is the kind of statement that reminds everyone that Washington isn't drifting aimlessly anymore. It's rebuilding with intention, and maybe, just maybe, when the dust settles on what's sure to be a turbulent offseason, fans will look back on this moment as the one where Adam Peters didn't just react to a problem. He set the standard for how the Commanders move forward. Laramie Tunsil represents everything Washington needs right now excellence, resilience, and dependability. Extending him isn't just a football move, it's a declaration that, despite all the turbulence, the Commanders still believe in building something that lasts. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. The NFL offseason has already been heating up, but rumors circulating this week might just be the biggest shakeup yet. Sources suggest that the Washington Commanders have set their sights on one of the league's most talked about cornerbacks, Asante Samuel Jr. And if these whispers turn out to be true, both the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys might be looking at a serious threat to their defensive and strategic plans. For months, fans have speculated about player movement and the domino effect it could have across the NFC East. But this particular development could be a game changer in ways that extend far beyond a single roster adjustment. The mere thought of Samuel Jr. potentially switching teams has sent shockwaves through social media, sports forums, and even the locker rooms of teams that have historically counted on their secondary to maintain a competitive edge. Analysts and insiders alike are buzzing, trying to piece together how such a move could come to fruition and what it would mean for the upcoming season. The Commanders, traditionally seen as a team slowly rebuilding and carefully crafting their roster, seem to be making a bold, almost aggressive statement with this rumored pursuit. Asante Samuel Jr. has not just been a solid performer, he's developed into one of the most dynamic, versatile cornerbacks in the league. A player capable of shifting momentum with a single interception or a perfectly timed pass breakup. The idea that Washington could bring that caliber of talent into their secondary has led to endless speculation. Could this be a prelude to a full-blown NFC East power shakeup? Eagles and Cowboys fans are already expressing anxiety online, imagining a scenario where one of their prime defensive assets could be playing for a division rival. The rivalry within the NFC East has always been intense, bordering on legendary at times. And the thought of Samuel Jr. donning a different jersey adds a new layer of tension that both sets of fans can't ignore. Even casual NFL observers are starting to notice, and the chatter is growing louder by the day. What makes this potential move even more intriguing is the strategic implications. Samuel Jr. has a rare combination of speed, instincts, and football IQ that allows him to shadow top receivers, make critical adjustments mid-route, and influence the passing lanes in ways most cornerbacks simply can't. If the Commanders manage to pull this off, they're not just acquiring a player, they're acquiring a chess piece capable of redefining their defensive identity and, by extension, disrupting the plans of both Dallas and Philadelphia. It's the kind of acquisition that sends ripples through playbooks, forcing quarterbacks to reconsider their reads and offensive coordinators to recalibrate their strategies. The potential for Samuel Jr. to thrive in Washington is tantalizing. He has shown time and again that he's capable of reading quarterbacks before the snap, jumping routes and turning critical plays into game-defining moments. If he ends up in a Commander's uniform, you can bet that Sunday matchups in the NFC East will suddenly feel different. Analysts are already projecting scenarios where Samuel Jr. becomes a lockdown presence, altering the dynamic between these teams and forcing offenses to adapt in ways that could affect the outcome of not just individual games but potentially playoff seeding. The rumors themselves are being carefully fed, often by unnamed sources close to front offices and insiders familiar with the inner workings of roster negotiations. Every tweet, every post, and every speculative segment on sports shows seems to hint at a developing story that has yet to officially break, but the pattern is unmistakable. Washington is interested. Samuel Jr. is available, and the ripple effects could be profound. Of course, there are questions about logistics, contract details, and how the Eagles and Cowboys might respond if these rumors turn out to be accurate. Would they make counteroffers, attempt trades, or prepare to face their former teammate across the field? The tension is almost palpable, and it's exactly the kind of story that captures the imagination of fans who thrive on rivalry drama and off-season speculation. There's also the human element to consider. Samuel Jr., a player with a clear passion for competition and a reputation for studying film obsessively, would likely have input on where he could make the biggest impact and find the right fit for his career trajectory. Rumors suggest that conversations have been happening behind the scenes, that there is a genuine mutual interest between player and organization, and that the Commanders are willing to make strategic moves to ensure they land this coveted cornerback. That willingness to act decisively sets them apart from other teams that may hesitate or adopt a more cautious approach while nothing has been confirmed. Insiders hint that the Commanders' front office sees Samuel Jr. as a foundational piece, someone around whom they can build a secondary that challenges the likes of the Eagles' wide receiver corps and the Cowboys' explosive passing game. The implications for draft strategy, free agency maneuvering, and roster management are immense. The rumor mill suggests that Washington could be preparing to reshape its identity, signaling to the rest of the league that they intend to compete immediately, not gradually. For fans and pundits alike, this is the kind of narrative that sparks endless debate. Is Samuel Jr. truly the missing link for a team hungry for recognition? Or is this just another offseason story designed to generate headlines? The answer could be revealed sooner than anyone expects. Meanwhile, Eagles and Cowboys faithful are bracing themselves for the worst, imagining scenarios in which their offensive stars are constantly shadowed by one of the league's best corners, potentially turning high-stakes divisional matchups into defensive masterclasses. Social media chatter reflects the anxiety and excitement in equal measure, with fans dissecting every possible angle from contract value and trade potential to the psychological impact of facing a former teammate in critical moments. The ripple effects extend beyond the field as well. Marketing, merchandising, and team narratives are all influenced by the mere possibility of Samuel Jr. joining Washington. Imagine the headlines, the highlight reels, the buzz around stadiums when this story finally breaks, or even if it simply escalates without an official confirmation. Rumors like this are more than idle chatter. They shape perception, influence team decisions, and set expectations for months in advance. Asante Samuel Jr., at just the right age and in peak form, represents not just talent but potential, and the Commanders' interest signals ambition. The Eagles and Cowboys, meanwhile, are being forced to anticipate, strategize, and perhaps react in ways they hadn't originally planned. The intrigue is compounded by the timing mid-offseason, when teams are still evaluating their rosters, exploring free agency, and trying to build chemistry. Adding a player of Samuel Jr.'s caliber would be an attention-grabbing move, one that could instantly alter the competitive landscape. Even casual fans have begun to follow the story, discussing what-if scenarios in podcasts, comment sections, and live streams. Analysts are comparing this potential move to some of the more surprising shifts in recent years, noting how a single acquisition can redefine a team's defensive identity, energize a fan base, and make rivals reconsider their game plans. And the Commanders, often seen as underdogs in the NFC East, could suddenly become the team everyone watches, the one capable of changing the narrative entirely. Whether this rumor materializes or remains speculation, it's already shaping the conversation around the league. The potential acquisition of Asante Samuel Jr. is not just about a player, it's about momentum, confidence, and signaling intent. Washington is sending a message. They're serious about contention, they're willing to take risks, and they're ready to make bold moves to achieve their goals. Meanwhile, the Eagles and Cowboys are left in a position of anticipation and uncertainty, forced to consider defensive adjustments, strategy tweaks, and the possibility of facing a revitalized opponent. With a new ace in their sleeve, fans, insiders, and pundits will be watching closely, analyzing every hint, every cryptic tweet, and every subtle signal from front offices. This isn't just a story, it's a brewing drama, a high-stakes rumor that could redefine the NFC East and provide endless talking points. As the season approaches, Washington's apparent pursuit of Asante Samuel Jr. is the kind of off-season whisper that keeps fans awake at night, debating, theorizing, and imagining the chaos or brilliance that could follow. One thing is certain: if these rumors hold any truth, the landscape of the NFC East could look very different come September, and the ripple effects of Samuel Jr.'s potential move could be felt across the entire league. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.